welcome to the Hakuna Matata talk. This is Cynthia. And today I'm dedicating this chat to my brothers and sisters back home in Africa, in East Africa, and in Uganda. So this one is for you. Please watch it and share it if you can. Life in the diaspora, like the good, the bad, the ugly, and the things you guys don't get to know, like the things we don't get to tell you. Diaspora, in this case, I mean Europe or Belgium. I live in Belgium, and that's in Europe. So what I will share today, or what I'm going to share today, is more about life in Europe or life in Belgium. So the rest of the world, in America or Canada, Australia, some things could be similar, but not everything. So in this case, Europe is what I'll mainly talk about. Yeah. So how is life in the diaspora? Hey, you guys whom I know, most of people think life in the diaspora is glamour, glitter, money. But is that true actually? I don't know. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about in details later. So how is life in the diaspora? I'll start with the good. I mean, it's always nice to start with good news. So I'll start with the good. There's a lot of good stuff in the diaspora. People who live in Europe will agree with me. There are lots of good things here. One of them being, there are people here, or there are people who live in the diaspora, and they actually live a wonderful life, like a beautiful life. If I say a beautiful life, or a wonderful life, or a good life, you know what I mean. So there are our brothers and sisters here who actually live a very beautiful life. And I mean, we should also say that, who doesn't want to live a good life? That's also something good in the diaspora. And what else? There are brothers and sisters who come to live in the diaspora and go back to school and study and make wonderful careers, and they have beautiful jobs, you know what I mean, like really good jobs or professional jobs. They're also there. And I mean, we probably don't get to hear about these things a lot, but we also have brothers and sisters in the diaspora who have beautiful careers, trust me. Beautiful careers, I mean professional careers, like nice jobs, white collar jobs, yeah, the jobs I even would wish to have. Yeah, we have brothers and sisters who have those jobs here. Yeah, that's true. And what else? What else is good in the diaspora? There are so many good things, but you know what? This is something that everyone knows for sure. Like the system in the diaspora, the system works. Like, you know what I mean? The system works in a sense that when you're sick, you're not worried, oh, what will happen? What if I don't have money, or this or that? Or when you pay taxes, but you know where the money goes. If you lose your job, you're not worried, oh, what will I eat? I lost my job. The government always comes and they have a system where you're always supported. Even when you lose your job, you can always survive. You can always pay your bills. I mean, that's something beautiful. I mean, that such a system, you don't find it everywhere. But I mean, here, you lose your job, you can still survive in one way or the other. You get supported by the government. So that's also something nice. I thought I should share with you guys. So basically, the social security system here is generally good. Like you feel safe in all corners in terms of, when you lose your job, when you're sick, or everything that has to do with social security system here, it's wonderful. It's really nice. And the exposure, the exposure that comes with being in different countries or in the diaspora, visiting different countries, you learn a lot of things. You see a lot of stuff, different cultures, like a lot. So the exposure itself, I find it also something really nice. Like you get a enormous exposure here in the diaspora because we meet different people from all over the world, and you get a chance also to visit different countries. So that's also something beautiful, or that's something I thought I should share with you, or that's something I find really nice living in the diaspora. Okay. The reality though is like life in the diaspora is not always glamour, glitter, money. No, that's not always the case. Okay. So what happens in diaspora, actually how I will share this, I'll start from how it all starts. Okay. Maybe we'll go through the whole procedure, and probably you will understand what I mean, or probably it will be easy for you to follow the whole video if I start from how it actually starts. So let's start how people come in the diaspora. So you get in the diaspora, you move from your country, you decide to move to live in Europe. It doesn't matter any country in Europe, And what happens is once you move to these European countries or any country, in most cases, you start from zero, okay? You guys know most European countries do not speak English. I mean, if you're from East Africa, you know what I mean. We speak English in East Africa. So for example, in Belgium, they speak French, Dutch, and German. So once you come here in Belgium, and most other countries like German, Sweden, everywhere, like they all speak different languages. So once you come here, you have to start from zero. It doesn't matter if you have a degree, if you have masters or whatever level of education, you have to start from zero. And from zero, I mean learning the language. You have to sit in class and learn again how to count 1, 2, 3 up to 10. Learn alphabet, A, B, C, D, like, you know, that's what I mean from zero. So, but also there are other people who come. Not everyone has to go through the same procedure. There are people who come and immediately have jobs. Like if you're from a French-speaking country, like in Belgium, like I said, there are some parts. One part speaks French, so those guys, they can come and immediately they are lucky, they get jobs. Also, there are there are places where you can get lucky and work in English. So it doesn't mean that what I'm saying applies to everyone, or it doesn't mean that what I'm going to share everyone went through that or everyone goes through that, but I'm talking about the majority. The majority, they start from zero, okay? So I wanted to make that clear. And once you learn the language, what happens is, to learn the basic language, like the basic levels, you need at least minimum 1 year. And 1 year, you've learned like the basic, you know, communication. You can find a simple job. You can, you know, you can find just simple jobs with the basic language. At least you need 1 year. And in that 1 year, we can't go in details what happens, okay? So that means that's 1 year of finding your way. There are people who come here and decide to study higher and, you know, do professional courses. That 1 year will not be enough for the language. So you will need 2 to 3 years, at least 2 years. Let's say if you're a very good learner, if you're good at languages, if you follow 2 years, you should be able to be at a level of following a course. So that's already 2 years gone. I mean, still 2 years finding yourself. You haven't reached anywhere 2 years down the road. So, you know, so that's what I mean when I say starting from zero. And most people go through that. So once you come here, you lose a few years of your, you know, of your life. Like you're here trying to find yourself. For some people, it takes them 2 years. For some people, it takes them 3 years. Some people, it even takes them up to 5. And they are still figuring out things. They are still figuring out what I have to do here, which way to go. So this beginning is never easy, okay? So that's, I thought I should also share with you, like when we decide to come here, or when we all came here, the beginning wasn't easy. We always had to learn the language and find yourself, figure out things, and decide on what you want to do. And once you finish that level of the language, the next step is, of course, going to work. But like I said, there are people who come and they don't even learn the language. They go direct to work, or they are lucky and they get a place where they can work in, where the language doesn't really apply. If you know English or French, the chance is high that you will immediately find a job, you know. But not everyone is so lucky, or not everyone gets lucky. So don't say, oh, but me, I didn't know. This is, like I said, we will talk about what the majority really go through. And then that level is done. So the next step will be finding a job. You guys, it's very, very challenging. Are you guys back home think, oh, when you go to Europe it's easy to find a job? It's not as easy as you guys think. For some people, it's easy, and for other people, it's a challenge. So finding a job is also another challenge, especially for people who have like higher qualifications. I mean, you have your degree or your master's or whatever, and you come here, you have to learn the language. You go back to zero and the language, and then they have the system where they have to equivalent the education qualifications from Africa and to here. And in Belgium, most of the time, if you have like a degree, a bachelor's degree of 3 to 4 years, in most times here, it's like 2 years. Trust me, you have like a diploma lower than bachelor's. Very few courses like you get the same standard, like the same, you know, you stay with your bachelor. In most cases, it's one level lower. So that's also, I mean, disappointing, but that's what happens. And remember, now you did your qualifications are lower. You don't know the language that well, so you can imagine finding a decent job is a big challenge. It's not easy finding a job. Jobs are there, trust me, the jobs are there, but it doesn't matter which job you find. You earn money, you're paid, okay? It doesn't matter what job, you are paid. That's the truth. But I mean, if you're highly educated and you decide to come here, the chance is high that you will be doing the same job. You'll have your master's or even 2 masters, and you'll be doing the same job as someone who is an S4 dropout or even a P7 dropout, a primary school dropout. And that's life here, okay? That's the truth. That is the reality. So let's talk about work. So you have gone through now the challenges of finding work. You have found work. You guys, here, every penny you get, you work for it, okay? You work for it. It's not like, you know, you are paid per hour. And it's a beautiful thing because, I mean, it doesn't matter what job you do, everyone gets paid. And it's a good pay. If you change the money into the local currency back home, it's a lot of money. So you work hard, and here working is working. You guys, let's say people who work like 8 hours, it's working. Like you work 8 hours, you work, and you have your 30 minutes to break. Some people have 20 minutes to break. Some people have 15 minutes to break. But those 8 hours, by the time you go home, you just want to sit in your couch. And I'm talking about just 8 hours of work, okay? So what about people who work 2-3 jobs? We will get to that level as we go. So here, work is really work. When you go to work, you work. There's nothing like you be on your phone. Like I know sometimes I call my friends back home, and like on my free day or when I'm free, and they're like, I'm at work. And then I ask, can you talk? I say, of course I can talk. And then you just, you know, like for 30 minutes, and that work, you know what I mean? But here, in some places of work, you don't even go with your phone, like on your workstation. You leave your phone in the locker and you go to work, okay? So you earn money, but you work for it. Working is working, yeah. So now you have worked. You earn your money, you have your salary. Yeah, at the end of the month, you know, everyone gets paid. But guess what? Here, you earn money, but how you earn it is how you spend it. Most times you find like rent, just house rent or your apartment rent is almost half of your salary. And it's half of your salary. You haven't paid electricity, gas, your car, your telephone, your TV, like all those things, your food. You haven't bought clothes for yourself. Remember, with extended family, you need also to think about people at home. So the money you make it, but that's how you spend all of it. Like all of it goes. You can't, if you have a job, like one job, it's very difficult to save money from a one job. It's almost impossible because, like, yeah, the bills are bills. Like you have to pay everything. You have to pay for everything. Like everything. I can't say in details, but people who live in Europe, like, you know what I mean. There are so many bills. Like it's unbelievable. And what happens in some cases, some people who are single, they share houses or they share apartments to, you know, to be able to save. Some people share apartments or share so that they can share the bills and share the rent, and in that way they can save some money. So most people who are single do that, and that, I mean, it works. Why not? You just share, you get one apartment, 3 bedrooms, you live there with 3, and you all share the bills. You share everything equally, and that way you can save some money. That's life in the diaspora. You guys, if you have someone in the diaspora who still chips in at home, or who helps pay school fees, or who has even gone further to help build a home or build a house, you guys, you don't know how much they sacrifice. Here in the diaspora, people work 2 jobs. People work extra hours. You know, people go in dates just to, you know, help people back home. And that it's just what it is. It's just the reality. People work their butts off just to sacrifice for people at home. And it's not easy. You guys, if you knew how much people in the diaspora sacrifice to do what they do at home, oh, if you have only one normal job of 8 hours, the salary you receive is not enough to pay all the bills and live on it and even save. It's not enough. So for people who have like extended family, or people who chip in at home, or people who help back home, they have to work extra hours. They have to work 2 jobs, up to 3 jobs. They have to go in dates, you know, they have to share houses to make sure that they help back home. So you guys, like, sometimes people don't buy what they need. Like simple things, like you see something nice, oh, I would like to have that, but then, hey, my sister goes to school, so I mean, instead of buying what you like, I'll pay my sister's school fees. That's how much they sacrifice. So you guys back home, if you have anyone in the diaspora, anyone who gives however little, who supports you in whatever way, they sacrifice so much. And I thought I should say that. We probably don't get to tell you these things. We probably don't get to share all the details of what happens in the diaspora. Because when we come home, it's like, yeah, we go out, we have fun, and we spend, and you do all those crazy stuff. But you know why? It's because we don't get to do those things here most of the time. Because here, when you work, it's work. If you have 3 jobs, tell me, when will you get time to go out? You will not go out. If you have to go out, it will be once a month. Imagine once a month, you know. Back home in Uganda, I remember those days, every evening, friends would call, hey, I'm done with work, where are you? Let's go drink tea. Let's go drink coffee. Let's go drink wine. You know what I mean? But we don't have that here. So if someone is working extra hours, someone is working 3 jobs, and someone has dates to pay, that luxury is not there. So when they come home, or when we come home and you see us like we are crazy, you know, like spending and doing all these kinds of things, it's like it's because we have missed that. It's because we miss that. And it's because we don't get to do that here. Life here is like work, 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 work. There's nothing in between. Forget about the category I talked about in the first place, who, like in the beginning of the video, people who have a good life. There are people who have that life also here, but now, like I said, I'm talking about the majority. It's work, 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 work. And when we decide to go home, we save for that. Like someone says, okay, it's in April, I would like to go home in December, and guess what happens? So we have to work. If the salary is not enough, someone will take an extra job, someone will take extra hours to be able to save for that period. And when they come home, all they want is to enjoy. All they want is like to take all that stress off their head, like to, you know what I mean. So that's what happens. And that shouldn't like mislead you to thinking that there is a lot of money here, like we have so much money, like we make so much money, that's why we come and splash it. No, it's because we've worked for it and we save it, and for that particular moment. And that's what it is. So you guys, don't be misled by such things. No, the truth is life here is work, 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 work. Every penny you receive, you work for it. And like I said, like the social security system, yeah, that's also there. If you lose your job, you get some money from the government to support you during the period that you're looking for another job. But it's not enough. You can't save from that money. That money is just enough to pay your bills. Actually, to pay your bills and buy some food. You can't even buy a pair of shoes from that money, like the shoe, you know, the money you get that supports you when you lose your job. Like some people say, but you get money from the government when you don't have a job. It's not a lot. It's not that you get the same money that you earn when you're working. It's much, much more less. So that's just to survive. So you can only survive from that money you get, the social support you get when you lose your job, but you can't like do anything extra with it. No. You guys, life in the diaspora is lonely. I'll say that again. Life here can be lonely. Like even words, like the word lonely is not enough to explain how life lonely here can be. You know, like you live in your apartment on your own, and this reminds me the time I was staying on my own in my apartment. I was always worried, if something happens to me, if I fall sick, who will ever know? Who will ever come to help me? It's not that because we don't have friends, it's not that we don't know people, but like when you're in your apartment, no one will just come knocking at your door saying, are you there? No. If you have friends, they probably live far. They're also busy working. Before they haven't heard from you, if they haven't heard from you, it's like 2-3 days. So if you're very seriously sick, no one knows what can happen, you know. So it's not that, like in Uganda or back home in Africa, if neighbors don't see you that day, 9 o'clock, you haven't gotten out, you're not out of the house, and they know you always come out of the house at 7, 9 o'clock, they'll knock at your door. Hey, are you there? You haven't, we haven't seen you today. You know what I mean? But here, no one will knock at your door. So people die in their houses on their own. People are found sick. People are found dead after months, you know, after weeks. So life here is really lonely. Trust me. That we don't have the social support system like I just said in Uganda or in Africa. After work, you meet with friends. There's a party every Friday. There's a party every Saturday, every Sunday. I can't even remember I ever had a weekend at home. Like, I mean, when I was back in Uganda, there was always something to do. There was always somewhere to go. There was, you know, but here, like, if you work as hard as I've said, you know, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, or even like extra hours, by the time it is Friday, you just want to be in your apartment or in your house. And then Saturday is shopping and cleaning the house. Sunday, before you know, it's Monday. So even if you have like friends, sometimes you don't have time to see your own friends. No. So that's life in the diaspora. The ugly truth is, for the people who live in the diaspora, and here I mean, like I said, Europe, or like in Belgium, for example, or the countries where they don't speak English, the truth is, the chances of reaching your full potential in the diaspora are very less. That is the truth. When you learn a language as an adult, in most cases, it's very difficult to get perfect at the language, or you can't even get perfect at it, like someone who has been born here or someone who is a native. That's the truth. So what happens? Why do I say that the chances are very less of people who come to live in the diaspora? Like, the chances are less for them to reach their full potential. First of all, when you're like competing for the same job as a native person, let's say you're applying for, you've come here, you've gone to school, you've graduated, it doesn't matter what course, and then you're applying for the same job as the native person, you know, what happens is, you as a foreign person, you have to be 3 times better than the native person to be able to take the job. Ali, to compete for the same job, you have to be like 3 times better. And it's difficult. It's very difficult, like, to beat that. I'm not saying that people are not smart or something, but if you have to be 3, 4, 5 times better than the other person, so the other person has more chances of, you know, beating you at whatever you're competing for. So, I mean, that's just the ugly truth. That's just what it is. When you're here in these countries where we have to start all over again, where we have to learn the language, where we have to find our way all over again, the chances are very limited of us reaching our full potential. But like I say, there are a few people who are lucky, or who have gotten lucky, and they have those, you know, big jobs, and they have those nice white collar jobs, and they can be, you know, they get promotions and stuff, but that's a very small number. But the majority is, the reality is, even getting a promotion at your workplace, it's difficult. Even, you know, you just have to settle for what you have. But it does, at the end of the day, you get paid. The pay is always good, you know, the pay is always good. But I mean, if for people who have gone to school and you have studied, you have your masters, you have 2 masters, or you even have, you know, and then you're here doing the same job as someone who is like a primary school dropout or a secondary school dropout, and you don't even stand a chance to get a promotion, and you are supposed to settle for that, and you actually settle for that. I mean, it's not fair, but that is the ugly truth. Okay, that is the ugly truth. But the good thing is that everyone gets paid, you know what I mean? But I mean, the truth also has to be said at some point. And the other ugly truth is, or what really happens, what sometimes when we come home we never almost think about, is racism and discrimination is real. Like, it is real. We experience this every day, at work, on the street, in the bus, on the bus stop, in the train, in the supermarket, in the market, everywhere you go. In the discotheques, there are even discotheques where black people are not allowed to enter. You know, to that extent. But I mean, but I've had friends call me, like, who go home and cry, because they have been confronted with racism. Like, someone calls you crying, literally crying. And how can you have, but that's just the ugly truth. Discrimination, like, you get discriminated basing on your color, on your name. Like, you apply for a job and they look at your name, boop, your application direct there based on your name. You know what I mean? But I'm not saying, like, there are people who, like I said, it has two stories. Like, every story has two sides. You know, there are people who have gotten lucky and everything has been like a smooth road, but the majority, this is what they go through. This is what happens. This is what happens. Racism, discrimination is real. Like, people get depressed, people cry at home, people, you know, but that's the ugly truth that people in the diaspora get to experience almost on a daily basis. And then we get to live with that. You know, we get to live with that. But that is just the ugly truth, and that is just the ugly reality. And we probably, like I said, certain things we don't get to tell you, but that also happens. Yeah. Another thing, there's another thing that I felt I should share. You guys, however much you live here in these countries or in the diaspora, like I can say it, even if you say you live here 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you know, you can almost never fit in 100%, never. Even if you speak the language fluently, even if you have integrated, you know, even if you are even part of them, those who are married to people here, like you're married to a native, or there are some places you will always walk into and people will turn heads, look at you like, what is she doing here? Or people will turn and look at you like, you don't belong here. They don't say it. No one gets to say it in your face, but trust me, you see it and you feel it, and it happens. Like, there are places, however much you stay, it doesn't matter how many years you stay here, but there will always be places where you enter, or where you will enter, and they turn and look at you like, what the hell is she doing here? You know, and you see it. If you have been, I've experienced this on several occasions. Like, you go somewhere and everyone looks at you like, you know, but people, if you have experienced this, you know what I mean. Like, you enter somewhere, just a look, just how people look at you, you get that, like, what, like, they look at you like, what is she doing here? But I mean, what do? You just have to be comfortable in your skin, raise your head up, and just move on. But that is the ugly truth. Fitting in, almost never, okay? Almost never. Unfortunately, that is the truth. And something else also we never get to share with you guys, you people, also here in Europe, or in the diaspora, or in these developed countries, there are also people who struggle to put food at their table. Oh yes, they are, because of one or other reasons. But there are people who also struggle to feed their families. There are people who struggle to put food at the table. There are people who struggle to literally survive because they don't have enough finances, or because they have different, you know, reasons why, or different, I don't know. But there are also people who struggle here financially, and that's just the truth that probably you don't get to know about, or you don't get to see, you know. It's not all glamour, money, whatever, but there are people also who struggle. There are people who are homeless, like people who don't have homes. They are homeless. They don't have food. They're on the street, just like anywhere else. So it's just, and it's, when you hear about these countries or Europe or whatever, yeah, it can go either way. You know, you can get lucky and everything is just a smooth road, or, you know, things can turn out in who knows, you know. So yeah, that's about it. So I know some of you will say, hey, if life is so bad there, if things are not that good, why don't you come back home? Why are you still there? I know. I know. So why are people in the diaspora still in the diaspora? Why don't they come home? Or why don't we come home? Like if we are saying, oh, the life in the diaspora is like this and that, and why don't you come home? One, I'll give you a few reasons, but I mean, people have different reasons, but in general, this is what I think, or this is what I've come to realize. Why don't people in the diaspora come home? First of all, coming home, once you have moved or once you have migrated to live in the diaspora, then you have, time comes when you have nothing to come back to in your country of origin. Well, what do I mean by this? Not having anything to come back to. So you've come here, started afresh, started from zero. You've built your way up. You're working. Your life is here. Your family, your children. Some people get married and your children and everything. And then you look back home. What do you have back home? Your mother, your sisters, and brothers. And what are they doing? Your brother is married. Your sister is married. Your mother is in their home. And then you're like, even if your parents are rich, even if your brother is rich, or your sister, it's their money. So when you decide to go, or once you decide to go back, you want to go and stay at your brother's house. You can't go and stay at your mother's house. Where will you stay? You again have to go back home and start afresh from zero. So I mean, so when you think about it, you're like, okay, now I have a life here. So why go back again, you know, to redo the whole process again? So that's one of the reasons that people in the diaspora don't come back. And the second reason, what I think, or why the majority I would think they don't come back, is because, like, the more you stay in the diaspora, the more you get attached to everything that is there. Then you have a family. Like, our lives are here. That's, you know, if you know what I mean, like, our lives are here. You have families, you have friends, you have built a different network altogether. So, and the more you stay here, the more detached you become, or you get with your friends back home. So it's like, yeah, it's like you have two homes and you have one home, but you can't let one that you have created to go to the other one that you don't have anymore. So that's, I think, because our life to some extent is here, and that makes it difficult to just all of a sudden go back home. And there are people, of course, who have gone back home. You know, like I said, you can't go back to nothing. People who have returned home, it's because they've worked so hard. They've sacrificed so much, and they have done something back home. Like, they have built a house, they have done businesses there, and then they have come back home. That way you can come back. But otherwise, you can't come back home to nothing. What? In most cases, we have nothing back to come to. We have nothing to come back to. That's just what it is. That's just the reality. And the other thing is, the more you live in the diaspora, the more you get used to the system. You know what I mean? The social system I talked about, the social security system I talked about. So you get used to the system, and then you compare it to the system at home. Like, oh, if I go home now and I fall sick, what will happen? If something happens to my child, where do I go? What happens? I don't have insurance. I don't have this. So all these things, we are scared. Like, we are attached to the system here, and then you compare it to the system at home, where probably the system doesn't work. And then all these things, it makes it difficult to go back to the other system when you have gotten used to this system. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. We people in the diaspora don't just go home, just say, oh, let me go home. Because most of you will say, oh, if things are not that good there, or if it's like this and that, why don't you come back home? There are different reasons also. And the whole thing of getting used here, finding your life here. So you can't just, when we go back home, it's also again starting from zero, and that makes it a little bit difficult. Yeah. So with that being said, my brothers and sisters, I'm not saying you shouldn't chase your dreams of going to live in the diaspora or going to work in the diaspora. But before you make that decision, look in front of you. What opportunities are there? You know, what chances do you have there? Can you make use of them? You know, just think about that. Like, look around you. What opportunities are there before you can make that big step, that big jump, you know? But of course, at the end of the day, I mean, we all have different dreams. So who am I to say don't go. I'm not saying actually don't go, but I'm just sharing my views. I'm just sharing what I think you guys should get to know, and I'm happy that I could share it with you. So that was it from us today. I hope you learned something from this video, and with that being said, peace out. Bye. Ciao ciao.